think it's just listening to the customer.
Yeah.
You know, and just taking the feedback and kind of getting down in the trenches with them and finding out exactly, you know, and a lot of times it's little things, but those little things make all the difference in the world. You know?
It's important to get your core products right and build your company around that. I think you guys have done exactly the same as we have.
Sure.
You know, get your core products right at the right price where the customer is happy to use them, and then you can introduce new stuff.
Welcome to Cinema 5D on the Go. Moving conversations about moving images with filmmakers and industry leaders. Brought to you by Tilta, Blackmagic Design, Manfrotto, and Olympus OMD in association with Sony. This is your host, Nino Leitner.
Okay, welcome to this episode of On the Go. We're here in our car in Las Vegas with Eric from Kessler Crane, or Kessler, and Rob from Bright Tangerine.
Good evening.
Hi guys. So just off the first day of NAB, but we'll try not to focus to talk about new gear too much. I mean, we can, but I just want to take a step back and really reflect on what has been happening in the industry over the past few years, because both of you are kind of veterans of the industry, right? So a lot has changed over the last few years. How did Kessler get started? Yeah, what the...
We got started back in 2003 when I had sold my previous business where we were making paintball gun products and for the marker industry or the sporting of paintball. And my marketing guy was a filmmaker and he introduced me to filmmaking.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that's how I kind of got into it. We started doing a bunch of this simple little productions and finding out that we needed to, you know, get some gear, but we didn't have a lot of money, so we started making our own stuff. And at that time, it was right about like when the, Canon XL1 or XL2 was coming out.
That's when I was starting.
Yeah,
right about that time.
Right,
yeah.
and it was like what, the DVX 100, and all that stuff. So a lot of the gear wasn't geared towards the smaller cameras at that time. So like, you know, cranes and, you know, some of the other items that we needed at that time. So we started building our own stuff and it just kind of grew from there.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, a lot has changed and really revolutionized with the 5D Mark II, really. I mean,
that was where we really saw a big spurt in our business, is with the 5D Mark II, because all of a sudden now you have a camera that looks amazing, very affordable, you can edit on a laptop, you know, just all the levels of technology came, you know, all in at the same time that made it affordable and easy for a person to, you know, start doing their own productions. And so there was a big influx into this industry, and we happened to have the type of items that people were needing to, you know, to support their cameras.
And I remember the time where in the beginning when these cameras came out that, you know, like when there were these established filmmakers who didn't take it seriously.
Right.
And I mean, that changed quite quickly, I think, with
Very
all
quickly.
your company and Sakuto and some others that started really feeding professional gear into that market, which was considered a non-professional camera by many who were established.
Yep.
But yeah, they were shown the door quite quickly, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it spoke for itself. You know, when people start seeing, hey, this stuff looks great.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I can do it with, you know, a much smaller budget and less crew and faster to, you know, get your equipment set up and up and shooting. So it, you know, and everybody's always trying to save $1. You know, so yeah, I think that's just where everything just kind of spun off of that.
Yeah.
And then you've seen everything kind of come full circle where, you know, everybody was shooting on DSLRs, and now what I'll call the proper video camera type format has now adopted that sensor type technology. You know, so now,
well, the funny thing is now you see, like, you know, the traditional established camera manufacturers trying to push those cameras back in, kind of, where they like Canon is the best example. They don't want you to use their DSLR for filmmaking. Right. Yeah. Whereas, but we want to be like, you know, it's like just another tool.
Sure.
They just want to have you buy the more expensive one again.
Right. Yep. I mean, there is something nice to be said about the more traditional format of video camera, just because all the hot buttons and everything like that. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to put a little extra effort into, you can still make great looking stuff.
Absolutely.
DSLRs.
What about Bright Tangerine? Where did you guys come from?
Well, the owner of Bright Tangerine, about 6 or 7 years ago, used to work for a well-known camera and accessories manufacturer.
Okay.
Decided or saw the opportunity to make something a little bit more user-friendly,
Yeah.
and especially with the anamorphic lenses and the larger sensors coming. The wide-angle field was really important on a matte box, just so we can cover the lens. So we decided to branch out on his own, and that's where he started, really. So it's sort of come from, you know, the industry wanting larger sensors, and the products on the market didn't really cover, you know, the wide-angle lens and a larger sensor at the time.
Are you talking about mainly in the beginning of the matte boxes?
Yeah, that's where it came from. He started with one matte box at the beginning, and developed that, and you know, wanted to make something where he'd had a lot of feedback from, you know, the guys that are doing all the shooting, so he could make something that was a little bit more user friendly, so he could, you know, the guys on the ground could do stuff a little bit faster.
Yeah. I like how both of your companies have really specialized in a relatively small field and made a name there. So
yeah, and you know, we're branching out into other little fields now. So
yeah, but still, I mean, you're known for the matte boxes, and Kessler Crane is known, well, first for the cranes, but really for the sliders, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sliders and motion control. We kind of brought, you know, high-end motion control to the masses. You know,
absolutely.
I mean, prior to us, there was only the very expensive systems out there, and you know, I mean, we have competition now on the market, but we still feel like, you know, between our software, our Chaos software, and I guess just all-around form factor of the products that we're building, the build quality, I think we're still doing it.
Totally. I mean, I think just the second shooter as a product, I'm still honestly, you know, like without sucking it up to you, I really am amazed how cheap it is for what you get.
Sure.
Because if you compare that with, you know, like, I won't name names, but like traditional companies like motion control type heads, especially the head.
Right.
If you want a head that small that can do what the second shooter head does, it's a lot more money. Usually.
More money.
Yeah. And I was actually surprised just attending a presentation of one of those companies, and they were like, "Oh, it's only $6,000." I'm like, "What?" It's like,
we're $1,200.
So that's.
And I think our build quality is right there, if not better. I mean, a lot of those heads are, you know, have a lot of plastic parts. We're 100%. I shouldn't say 100%, but mostly billet aluminum, stainless steel, you know, quality products, or quality materials for our products. And the other big thing is the intuitiveness of our controls. That's one thing that a lot of people will compliment us on, is like, you know, within 5 minutes, I know how to operate this thing.
Yeah, and also within 5 minutes, you can set it up, because that's one of the things where, you know, I mean, also, I think you've, you know, come a long way also from previous products where this is like literally take it out, put it up, it's done.
Right.
And it's not a lot of cables and stuff like that.
We just want to make it as easy. I mean, we understand that, you know, I go out on a lot of shoots with our customers and interact with them, and what we always hear is, you know, it's like anybody else doing their job. They want it to be as easy and as fast as possible. Time is money.
It's important to keep get your core products right, and build your company around that. I think you guys have done exactly the same as we have.
Sure.
You know, get your core products right at the right price where the customer is happy to use them, and then you can introduce new stuff.
Right. Well, and your stuff is absolutely rock solid. Like I said, I only had one interaction with your product lately, and that was your follow focus. But I mean, you guys are definitely doing that right. I mean, that's.
I mean, you both picked industries which are, you know, there's been a lot of people, like a lot of companies doing stuff in that field before, but you've just made it more affordable and also more just smarter. I think
it's just listening to the customer.
Yeah.
You know, and just taking the feedback and kind of getting down in the trenches with them and finding out exactly, you know, and a lot of times it's little things, but those little things make all the difference in the world, you know?
Yeah. So. Don't lock yourself in a dark room.
Yep.
You know,
that's a good point.
Use your sales guys that are seeing people on a daily basis, you know, take that feedback and then put that back into R&D.
Well, it's like the matte boxes, for example. I mean, it's a classical example of where, for me, for a long time was like a rental item. But what you would always get is, you know, like these huge RE matte boxes, which are just, they're great for what they are, but they're just too heavy for a lot of setups because they were not made for smaller cameras. And but that's all they had, and there weren't many other companies making lightweight matte boxes at all that were really, you know, working around what we need. And then now, you know, with gimbals and all that kind of stuff, you have other problems. You put a A7S on there which doesn't have an ND filter. How do you actually use a matte box on that without having it completely top heavy now and stuff like that? So yeah, you definitely solve that on your different fields, I think. And the slider thing as well. I mean, if you talk to the old school guys, they would always bring a dolly to everything, which is not practical for a lot of shoots, where, you know, a slider just, you know, even if you just have like a few 3 inches, 3 feet or something, it does quite a lot for production value.
Yeah, especially if you know how to use it properly and how to do a, you know, foreground subject and things like that to show the movement.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Use a wide angle lens and have some foreground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, we all overuse gear. You know, like when I got my Cine slider, I think I just had every shot was moving.
I think anytime somebody gets a new piece of gear, that's what they do. You know,
Yeah,
and
totally.
there's nothing wrong with that. But every kind of motion, in my opinion, or any kind of aspect of filmmaking should always be treated like a spice. You know, it's like just a little bit here, a little bit there, but not, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so it just should be enough to, and it should have purpose. I mean, any kind of motion should have, not just because you can, it's why are you doing this, you know?
I think a lot of reason has, you know, people are more reasonable than they used to be. Like when the 5D came out, everybody was shooting with a wide open aperture all the time. Everything was out of focus kind of, just because they could. Yeah, same with the slider, same with the gimbal, same with everything really.
Yeah, when the gimbals first came out, everything was handheld gimbal, you know. And then you know, I've actually had a lot of our customers telling us now where clients are actually requesting more handheld.
Yeah.
You know, just to get away from, you know,
from
having
the super smooth look.
Yeah, super smooth look. You know,
it all comes in waves.
Right, it is. And you know, back when I got into this business, you know, everybody wanted a crane shot. Now you don't see too many of them. I mean, not unless it's like at a you know, a live event kind of a thing or whatever. And even slider shots now are, you know, unless you're, I wouldn't say they're going away, but again, it's just that perfect meld of a little bit of everything, you know, and make it have purpose.
I think time lapses were so overused for a while.
Oh yeah. Well, there's another big thing. I mean, we were selling so much time lapse gear, it was ridiculous. I mean, those are great years for me. They've fallen off a little bit. I mean, still, it's one of those things that'll never go away. But I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was like, you know, people were just making complete films out of nothing but time lapse.
That's true.
You know, I mean, just look at Timescape, which it's a beautiful thing. It's just, I think
Timescapes,
Timescapes.
Yeah.
You know, beautiful film, and there still has a need for it, but again, like a spice. Why are you using a time lapse?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just, I think it was one of those things again where we have a DSLR that doesn't use film, so I can shoot as many photos as I like, and I can put it on something motion. It didn't cost anything to do it once you have the gear. And again, it was once you can do it, you did it. You know,
but right now, and right now for me that is the drone, right? The drone,
so
like
same thing with drones. Now
every shot you see has got a drone shot in it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's all accessible as well.
Right. So because you could never get that perspective before, now that you can, you overuse it. You know?
Hence, that's why we made the Misfit Atom, the lightweight, because we saw the industry was going for a drone shot, and you want to put a filter on the front for an effect or an ND, or so you know, we saw that, decided to make a little small lightweight product.
Yeah, that for me solved the problem on the movie.
To save having to like tape a piece of glass on.
Yeah, exactly. I did that. Like you took a 4x4 and just taped it on.
Taped it on.
Yeah. Well, of course.
I didn't know you're making. So you're making a small matte box then, just for.
Yeah.
Like,
we have a. It's called the Misfit Atom. It's a small, lightweight. Takes 2 filters, and we've added a few extra accessories on. I mean, you can take the hood off. So you can shoot it or use it without the hood on, so it's not less wind resistant, and it's done really well. It's
I'll have to check that out. I'll swing by your booth tomorrow. Might need to get one of those.
with all these,
it is nice.
With all these camera people making smaller and smaller cameras, like the Alexa Mini, you know, the Red, it's all getting smaller. So when we saw that and decided to make something.
I also like the snap-on matte boxes sometimes because I don't always want to use super long rods. If I use a cinema zoom or something, so it's nice just to have that on. Yeah,
and it's great. If you want to travel, just put it in your briefcase and off you go.
Yeah. Sure.